Good evening everyone and welcome to the first Ordinary Council meeting of 2024. I'm pleased to see a number of people in the gallery this evening. The meeting is being live streamed via Zoom webinar facilities, and recordings of council meetings or parts thereof cannot be copied, recorded, reproduced, reused or retransmitted without the prior written consent of the General Manager. The meeting is being recorded and the recording will be made publicly available on Council's website. Persons attending the meeting should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Council acknowledges the meeting and is being held on the lands of the Wiradjuri, Gundungurra and Darug people, and we pay our respects to the history and culture of elders both past and present. The prayer this evening will be from Heidi Houghton. Thank you, Heidi.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Councillors, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Heidi from the Oberon Uniting Church congregation. Please join me in prayer. Let's pray. Our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Deliver us, dear Lord, we pray, from every evil and graciously grant us the grace of your peace. We pray for your peace upon everyone here at this meeting, our whole community and the entire world. We thank you, O God, for all of our councillors. May they be wise and discerning in all of the decisions they make on our behalf. We also give thanks to you, Almighty God, for all of the people in the Oberon community who do unpaid work for the good of others, especially for the sick and elderly and those who most need encouragement. We all do need encouragement, dear Lord. Please inspire our hearts to joy and love and service. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. The record of attendance is as recorded in the business papers. Councillor Tucker has joined via Zoom this evening. Are there any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. There's no presentations this evening. The public gallery is open to members of the community, and the community is given the opportunity to ask questions at the commencement of the council meeting. And the Mayor is to ask the questions from the gallery prior to the commencement of the ordinary meeting. Members of the public wishing to address council are permitted to do so, provided the following guidelines are adhered to. The person asking the questions at the council meeting must clearly state their name and in what capacity they are acting. And if the person is asking the questions is acting as another person or organisation's agent, they must advise council if they have their prior consent or authority. Questions from the public is not an opportunity for debate with elected representatives or staff. It is an opportunity for the community to ask a question in relation to an issue or put a point of view relating to an issue that may be causing interest or concern. Due to time constraints, a time frame of 3 minutes per speaker is allocated, and all questions and comments must be directed through the Mayor, and in the instance of a question, if that cannot be answered, it will be taken on notice and a response given within a reasonable period. This is the only opportunity for community members to address council during an ordinary meeting. Is there anyone wishes to address council this evening? Mrs. Walsh.
Good evening all, I'm Vicky Walsh, as you know, from the Laundry Pad, owner-operator, and yes, I'm here again. I know I sound like a broken record, and that broken record going around and around and around in my head is not good either. December's meeting, I asked questions. I was put on notice. I was told I'd get answers by the Friday leading up to Christmas. The answer I got was routine maintenance will continue. Routine maintenance is not fixing the water issue problem with my business and other people. The report, the CWT report, was given to council on the 5th of December, I believe. You did give me a copy of that. I have read it. There are recommendations within that report, and one of them is to clean the main street pipes again with the likes of Clearflow, and that was as a priority in the recommendations. Has this been discussed at your confidential meetings? And if so, when will this be done? This is filters that I only changed on Friday. My business can no longer keep doing this. And I'm saying this every month, and I'm getting nowhere. Nobody is giving me straight answers. I know the General Manager was on holiday from the whole month of January. Well, he's been back for a few weeks now. I need answers. I've lost a sale, thank you, and I do not want to lose another one due to the contaminated water, and that is in writing. So please tell me when the recommendations from CWT will be actioned. It was a group thing that was agreed to bring in an independent person. That independent person has come. Why has nothing been done? I need answers. Thank you.
General Manager?
Mr Mayor, happy to take it on notice. The CWT provided council with an understanding on where the state of council's water is, and council has been provided with that information.
Anyone else?
Evening, fellow councillors. My name is Tony Lee. I'm the CEO of the Bathurst Local Aboriginal Land Councils. Apologies for today. I only got a phone call from Delise at Goulburn Local Aboriginal Land Council, who couldn't be here today. I'm just here to talk about the funding for the yarning circle out on the common on your way to Shooters Hill. I don't know the whole gist of it, but I just want to kind of vouch my support and the Bathurst Lark support in this community initiative. I really think it is a positive step in incorporating Aboriginal culture into Oberon, which we haven't seen for quite some time now. There's probably some questions that you may have around the MOU that's with council at the moment in regards to maintenance responsibilities and stuff. I'm happy to address those if need be. But yeah, I'm here to support Delise and the Oberon community in that yarning circle. So thank you.
Thank you. Doctor?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see our councillors face to face. I'm Akbar Alamyar. I'm one of the doctors. I've been in Oberon for the last...
Sorry, could you repeat your name again? I just want to write
Akbar
it down.
Alamyar, Akber. Alamyar is my surname, A-L-A-M for Mary, Y-A-R.
Thank you.
I've been in Oberon resident for 25 years. Currently, I'm full-time GP working in Bathurst because after 10 years being a full-time doctor here, I changed my profession to skin and for skin and cosmetic. Oberon was too small, so I'm still got some patients here which I see at times, but my full job is in Bathurst. And I'd like to thank Oberon Council to keep the town so nice. And I want to suggest that if Oberon can go on the list of tidy town, we are nearly there, but there are some problems I can see when I have my routine walk. There are some, I would call, brainless and blind people who actually litter the roads. The beautiful roads, you see all sorts of rubbish there, from plastic, paper, drinking cans. Even one day I noticed a nappy. So there is an old lady of my patient, June Evans. She's in her 80s. She walks almost every morning, early morning, late morning, winter time, summertime, with a plastic in her hand and collecting all these rubbish. And every 2 or 3 weeks time when I pass those roads, still you see the same thing happening again. And I can guess from the rubbish what they are. It looks like it belong to a small group of people who actually probably I would say from teenagers to around 30, 35, 40 years old. Because the drinks are all these soft drinks, McDonald's, KFC, energy drink, you name it. In the packet of the pack what they buy and then they eat and they throw it from their car. And I thought if Oberon Council can spend a small amount of money probably to put some signs, this is only a suggestion, on each entrance road to Oberon and give these people a bit of warning and notify that the town going to become a tidy town that I think make our Oberon town much nicer as it is. I just had a suggestion and I'm happy to help.
Thank you, Doctor. That's a very good suggestion.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to address the council? No, okay. We'll move on to item 8.1, which is the ordinary meeting from the ordinary meeting 19th December 2023, the confirmation of minutes. Recommendations that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 19th of December 2023 be confirmed. Moving seconder. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben.
No, I'm more than happy to recommend that those minutes as written be accepted.
Thank you, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to second the minutes. I had a couple of questions out of the minutes, if that's okay. I won't take up very much time. Just in 10.1 of the Black Springs Land Resolution, considering we had a resolution that was made, that's resolution number 4 on the 19th of the 12th. Not resolution number 4, so yes, resolution number 4, regarding the council explore the compulsory acquisition of the land at 67 Dog Rocks Road and then provide a report back to council at February or March. I'm wondering how that specific resolution is holding up at the moment due to the fact that there's further investigation with a private land matter.
We have actually paused that particular resolution and implementing it because if we're going to have if that landowner is willing to have the tower on it there, on their land, that will negate the requirement of compulsory.
Okay, I might address that further in the status of resolutions at the end of the meeting in regards to the communication of that to the other parties involved. And in regards to the Hazel Grove School Reserve quote that was obtained, which is 10.2 of the minutes on page 8 of 29, that the resolution to obtain a quote has been done, resolution number 5, 19th of the 12th, 2003. The quotation was sent through to council on the 20th of December. That seems to finalise that recommendation. I'm wondering what other direction we might be going to after that and what will be the outcome of it.
That's not, we're not doing business arising from the minutes at the moment.
Okay.
That will be dealt with in the resolutions.
Is there a status of resolution for that particular item?
Pretty sure there is.
Find that one at the end. Okay then, all right, okay, I'll leave it at that, thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one small error in the minutes, and then I have one question. On page 17 of the business paper, so talking about the same item that Councillor Hayden was just addressing, the Hazel Grove School. When the amendment was moved, it's shown as Councillor Kellam and Councillor Tucker as the seconder, but then a third of the way down the page it says Kellam and Trembath, so Trembath should be Tucker.
Okay. Okay. We'll correct that.
Thank you. And the question is on page 28 of the business paper, or page 20 of the minutes, just in relation to the sewage treatment works, and part 2 of the resolution directs that we get the CEO of PWA to the next ordinary meeting, and I'm just wondering, obviously that isn't happening today. I'm just wondering what the situation is.
General Manager?
Through the chair, we've written to PWA seeking them to front council.
And the minister.
We've also sent it to the minister.
And there's been no response?
Not at this point in time.
Right, thank you. That was all, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? For the motion, all in favour? Motion's passed. All right, item 9.1, the mayoral minute and report. Recommendations report, item 0901 is received as information. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor McKibben. All right, so that is my minute. You'll note that on the 9th of January, there is an item there that David Sanderson advised us that there was another private landowner in negotiations with Telstra for the small tower.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor McGibbon.
If I could, I note that there was a further meeting on the 20th of December 2023. That's part way down page 38. Read the Jenolan Caves, Road, Hampton. Are there any updates as to whatever was reported last time, that there would be closures, I think, during January of the road, and then it would be back to stop-go one way for a period of time?
And there will be further closures. I think a total of 47 days, is that correct, General Manager?
Complete closures.
Yeah, but it'll be generally from 7:30 till 5:30, and then will be resumed. There may be 1 or 2 days of complete closure, perhaps when they're doing some of the bigger culverts, but we don't know that for certain.
Okay, so the complete closures obviously will extend out into the, people need to check live traffic.
And Transport for New South Wales have given an undertaking to make sure that we get advised well prior to the expected closure, so that we can tell our community and not have our community learn by a sign on the side of the road saying they're closed.
Well, it has worked well so far. My bank manager came up and I did tell him not to go by Hampton because that was closed. So it is working, but people have to be aware of it and know to check. So otherwise, the inspection of works at Hazel Grove with Don Fitzpatrick, was at the Hazel Grove school, or was that the?
No, he had a complaint about some road work that had been done, and the fact that he couldn't get into one of his gates because there was a great berm of soil in front of him.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if I could, I know that there's a mention on the 17th of January 2024, which is again halfway down that page 30, and also on page 39, the Central West Forestry Hub. And the one on the 11th of January, which is 2/3 of the way down page 39, talks about the socio-economic study Oberon section and fact sheet. I'm interested to know why the forestry is so interested about the socio-economic sort of Oberon, or is it the fact how much they support the community and the underlying population with wages, salary, and
that's part of it.
Yes,
but it's got a broader remit, because they're trying to explain to people what the importance of forestry is across the country and how effective it is in supporting rural communities. It is a pretty reasonable document.
Yes, good.
They haven't released it as yet, per se. As soon as it is, I will be giving councillors an opportunity to have their own copy.
No, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
And it does show that the forestry contributes very significantly, and most of the people who are on the higher earning levels are people who work in forestry and related industries.
Thank you.
Councillor Trembath.
I was going to ask the same questions regarding the forestry, so you've answered all of that. There was just one other question, the correspondence from Deborah Houlihan regarding Abercrombie Hill safety.
Yes.
Sent her a response.
We have sent a response, and that's the one that involved the
Safety signs and so.
Safety signs and the closure of flood signs, yeah. Councillor Hayden?
Yes, I was going to mention the same regarding the three forestry hub listings here. So I've noticed that there was 17th of the first meeting with Craig Malden, then the 8th of the second meeting with West Forestry Hub, and then of course with the socio-economic study. So I think that you've answered that question. However, Tara Moriarty, her response to the correspondence regarding the community consultation for renewable energy projects, what was anything interesting out of that correspondence?
What was interesting is that she touted all the positive things about forestry and what the Forestry Commission does for the community, and failed to answer the questions I asked her.
So, passing it off once again. The Tour de Cure, I noticed that they've now cancelled their tour for May due to the cold weather. That's quite interesting, isn't it?
I think they're here in November.
Okay, right. So that's interesting. That must have been another one that they wanted to have done. The correspondence regarding Oberon Medical Centre and Columbia Aged Care to facilitate collaboration is, can you elaborate a little bit more upon that particular correspondence?
There's been a difficult relationship between the MPS and the Medical Centre and Columbia in terms of services. And I'd spoken to the CEO of Columbia, and I'd spoken to the principals of the Medical Centre and pointed out the opportunities to reach a collaborative solution to the provision of medical services to Columbia and also the visiting medical officers to the MPS. Now that can only be resolved really by the principals involved and Western Area Health Service.
So nothing further yet to...
No, not yet.
Okay, thank you, that is all, thank you.
Anyone else? I'll put the motion, all in favour? The motion is passed. Notice of motion, item 10.1, the Oberon Skate Park surveillance cameras, and the motion is that council seek quotations for the 2024-25 operation plan to upgrade the surveillance cameras at the skate park and Oberon Common or before if council see fit. Councillor?
I'll move that. Need to second it, don't I?
Second it, yeah.
I'll second it for discussion, Clive.
Mr Mayor, on about the 1st of February, we had an incident down there where one of the toilets was vandalised and not been able to be used. I checked with Matt, our cameras were unable to define who was the perpetrator and anything like that. Council has a great asset down there, and years ago when skate park first went in, and prior to that, we had surveillance down there, surveillance cameras, and I used to go back to the toilet block and we had an incident down there where I think the computer was damaged and never upgraded. But we need to install these and have security down there at the skate park and all other parts of the common. One thing that come out of all this, and doing a bit of research, is when our tradesmen were doing the Living Treasures Wall, there was 2 ewes caught pulling the rocks out of the rose wall. Now, we need surveillance on this. They're there in the daytime, they're there late at night, whatever. And it's only a minority, but we just need to have the things safe so we can have people down there, and if something happens, they can go back and have a look at the videos and find out who these people are. They're only a majority, but we've got to keep the other people safe. Thank you.
Councillor Trimble?
I recall, just in general about cameras and that, in November 22, in the confidential portion of the meeting, that we did actually get costings for all of our security cameras, and we were given some varying options of pricing, which were ranged from here to way up here. It was very significant. So, and then we determined it would either be put in a matrix for grant funding, or possibly we could look at it the TI. So we haven't done it this time, so we don't really need a quote. I think we already have the information. We probably need to review it again and understand sort of what this would cost to do this, because it's not a small amount of just a little camera down at the skate park. It's a lot of money. So that's what I think. I think we're coming up for that again very soon, and that's probably the time to discuss it and understand how much this would really cost and compare it to, because our cameras are sort of, band-aided together at the moment. We do need to have a look at the whole of the town security, not just the skate park, and we have to sort of be cognizant of how much is happening in that area of the common versus the cost. So I think we do have the costing, so it's there for us all to have a look at again and make that decision.
Councillor Gibbon?
Well, I'm happy for,
Sorry, I thought you had your hand up before as well.
I did, but I'm happy for Councillor.
Okay, I just wanted to question a few of the things that are in this motion. If the cameras actually do record, then the video recording memory cards that are in those cameras should be available for a period of time, shouldn't it? Through the general through the Mayor to Corporate Services?
Yeah, through the chair, there is a memory card in those cameras. They're not on our network or not supported. The vision is not the best, and the angles are aimed at the skate park at the moment, so they don't provide any broader vision in and around the area.
Right, thanks for that. Just another thing that I noticed in this notice of motion, there's a third bullet point that states on Sunday 4th of February at approximately 8:30 p.m. at least 4 children were still playing at the skate park. I just wanted to bring that up because I actually don't have a problem with people being out at night in the skate park, and it's much better than sitting at home on a computer. I don't believe that Oberon really needs to have a big brother overarch over the community. I think having some surveillance cameras in some areas for security is a good thing, but then I also don't appreciate the fact that there is this overarching big brother effect that then relays down into the community. Our community is a pretty trustworthy community, and after speaking at the IBS about what the vandalism was grass in a toilet, I find that's a very, very difficult thing to grasp. When I think of vandalism, I think of someone smashing something or painting something or doing something in a dramatic fashion. That's I don't support the motion. I mean, those cameras that we do have for security in the main street or car accidents or something like that's a different kettle of fish, but I don't think we need to have this whole object of security cameras all over the place looking at what everyone's doing every second of the day. That's just my comment.
Okay. Councillor Gibbon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too recall we had a previous investigation into security cameras. I think what we need to look at, as I think Councillor Trembar touched on, is a more holistic approach, and to say we're going to have to put security cameras probably in Oberon and even probably in some of our village locations in certain areas. It may be that we need surveillance cameras in the clubhouse up here. It may be out at the O'Connell Rec Ground. So we need to look at finding a system that is, and we have to also look at what cost is. I know we did a costing on one before and it was quite expensive from memory. But we probably need a system to look at a system, if we're going to do this, that will meet our total requirements, that is easy to download information from, and obviously satisfies our security needs where we have to do it. I agree that we don't want to become a big brother system, but unfortunately, the world is moving to a system where you have to have certainly crucial locations covered by security cameras. So I suppose on the basis of that, I would be moving an amendment to say, and I'm trying to get some wording, but please help me, anyone who could. The council investigate a total surveillance camera system for Oberon. So this system should be able to be utilised where necessary in appropriate locations throughout the council area, and have ease of download and obviously ease of usage by our staff.
Can I suggest we have a...
First, that's all right.
That the council review Oberon's security camera needs and investigate which system will best fit those needs.
Yes. And when we're talking about Oberon, Mr. Mayor, it means right across the Shire area or the council area, not just...
I don't understand. We do actually have a report.
I know, that's why.
And it's very comprehensive, so I would suggest everyone go back and take a good look at that. What Councillor McCarthy is suggesting is just seek a quote. So go and have a look at that report that we were given, and we'll come back with that information, and either in the budget process, grants, or with the TI funds. I don't think what Councillor McCarthy's asking for is that different, really.
Like, if I could, Mr. Mayor, I do appreciate we've had a report, but I did refer to that at the beginning. My concern is I thought that report was basically cameras pretty well specifically for the main street. It didn't have the ambit of being able to be used. For instance, let's say at O'Connell to keep surveillance of the new facilities there, or say Burriga, if Burriga wants to use it for the Burriga Dam, because I think we need some synergy so that whoever uses this equipment, it's basically the same.
Okay.
One more word. Can I just suggest that you look at that report again and see that how much that what you're talking about it will cost.
And it costs.
This is not an insignificant amount of money, and it's like a sledgehammer.
So councillor, why don't you put up
Proposed
an alternative motion which fits what you're saying?
That council review the report of November 22 regarding surveillance cameras.
Do you have a second for that? Second? Councillor Hayden? Anyone else wants to speak to that? Councillor McKibben?
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I don't have a problem with that as suggested. My only concern is that if we just look at that report, that was a report, as I recall, for cameras in the main street. I don't know that the extent of that report will cover what we're looking at here and that Councillor McCarthy's talking about, such as the skate park. Because it may be that we have to have independent power meters or something for those cameras that they wouldn't have had to in the main street. Independent power sources, what I'm talking about. I don't know if that initial report would be broad enough to cover that.
May I put an alternative forward?
We've got this one, we're debating.
Could I reword, perhaps?
You can, you're a seconder.
That the motion that Councillor Trembleth has put forward, perhaps add into that, defer any further discussion today and hold a working party meeting to discuss on another date to be made. If that was that.
You're happy with that?
Well,
councillors, we are getting bogged down in something which is fundamentally simple. We're overthinking this. Yes, councillor.
Mr. Mayor, what I was trying to say was, even if we have a working party, we haven't got the expertise in surveillance cameras, so I think it's up to council to come to look at the original report, see what needs to be right. That's council staff. I don't think we should be doing that. I don't think a working party is going to do it. That's why I was putting up what I put up. I'm quite happy to amend mine to say, look at the original report, if the council, look at the original report and come back to us with some recommendations for change.
So the council review the report of November 22 regarding surveillance cameras and defer the matter to a working party for discussion. My personal view is that a working party is not the way to do it. That's what we have staff for.
Sorry, that's what I was trying to say, Mr. Mayor, if I didn't say it.
We'll just defer the whole thing to another day because it's just taking up council time.
All right, why don't we say the council review the report, sorry, the council review the November 22 report and staff to provide, what were you saying in that?
Saying that this is, would be budgeted and considered in the next,
You have, Mr. Mayor, you have a standing resolution that says you're going to consider CCTV upgrades as part of each operational plan. Our consideration in this regard would be, why wouldn't we just bring back more information to those deliberations rather than have a secondary resolution that you already have?
Can I amend something to just say bring a report back in the April meeting?
Well, what we want to do is bring the report back in the operational plan when it's considered.
Yeah, so through the chair, you already have that as a standing resolution on your books. So it's just a matter of the detail on which we could bring back as part of that ongoing standing resolution that you have. So you don't have to have a resolution that says the same thing as a standing resolution.
No, the standing resolution is how we resolve this. This resolution needs to be voted on because it's been brought up and it's moved and seconded. So if we vote on it, we'll see what happens, or we can just defer the whole thing.
Defer the whole thing.
Defer the whole thing.
Defer the whole thing.
Defer it?
Yes, defer.
All right. So the amendment is that we defer this until further notice? No.
I'm sorry,
So how do we do this?
Can I do a
Mr. Mayor,
foreshadowed?
How do we do this?
You currently have an amendment, and that amendment has a move and a seconder. So you must debate that amendment.
All right.
If that amendment is lost, then you foreshadow a further amendment, and you can consider that amendment at that point in time.
All right. Now, I'm going to put the amendment that exists at the moment is the one that's up on the screen there.
That is correct.
Yes.
We've had a mover and a seconder. I'll call for anyone else who wishes to speak to this. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just pointing out that the mover of the amendment is the seconder of the motion.
You are correct.
You are correct. But I'm going to continue with it because otherwise we get a bit confused.
So through just through the chair, you can't have that. But,
That's right.
But Councillor Graham also put a hand up to support that original amendment.
We've got changed after that.
So proceed.
Why have we lapsed this?
You do have my hand. Can you?
It didn't have a
Did I have a foreshadowed?
Or the amendment could lapse because it didn't have a seconder.
Yeah.
All right.
It didn't have a mover because Councillor
All
Trumbull
right.
was the mover.
Yes.
For lack of a seconder, the amendment has lapsed.
Councillor Hayden seconded it though, didn't she?
Councillor Hayden did second it, that's correct.
Yeah, Councillor Trumbull, it was because of the lack of a mover.
Lack of a mover. So we go back to the original requirement in the motion. Now, we've had a mover and a seconder for this. And we have had from the General Manager that there is a standing resolution that covers this very issue. So therefore, I think this is redundant, but it has been moved and seconded. Does anyone else wish to speak to it? But I'll give you right to reply. Councillor?
I can't recall the original resolution wording. Just wondering if someone of November could read it out, please.
So,
That was that.
so through the chair, the three recommendations were that the report be received as information. The council place the CCTV upgrade options on the grants matrix in readiness for future grant and funding applications. And 3, consider CCTV upgrades as part of the town improvement project allocation deliberations.
It's fine. At that stage, Mr Mayor, I think the CCTV, we were only talking about CCTV in the main street though. Was the resolution and the report to which it refers wide enough to go further than that?
I think it is.
Through the chair, the contractor report did cover, did address skate park and some of those remote camera issues that have been highlighted with this incident.
I'm happy that.
Okay. All right. So does anyone else wish to speak to the motion as it exists?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I think it's too restrictive. We need to have a broader view than that particular motion. And I think that's what the standing resolution does.
Okay. Right, reply, Councillor McCarthy?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll have to check with my mate from Gilman to submit these so they don't get modified in the future. All I did was, I realised that these cameras weren't covering what we set out to do. The cameras on the pole don't work like they should do. We used to have cameras down there at the toilet block and the hub. There was a hub inside, in between the council area. I understand it got damaged, why it wasn't replaced under insurance, I don't know. But this is only to get something started. And just with the third dot point that Councillor Hayden touched on, I don't want to be big brother. All I'm highlighting here is that late at night, there's kids using this facility, which is good. And when they go home, they don't want something to happen like happened down the library. I don't know whether other councils know about it, but you need to go home safe. So the security cameras need to be there. Thank you.
All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? The motion is not carried. Motion is lost. All right, councillor and delegate reports. Item 11.1, the Barraga and District Community Association meeting. And recommendations that council receive and note the delegates report to the Barraga District Community Association meeting held on the 11th of January 2024. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The report speaks for itself. Subsequent to that meeting, I have given a brief report to Corporate Services Director and the General Manager of an update. There are some considerable problems with the pumps at the dam, and they were being assessed on Monday. I haven't had an update on that. There may be a request from Barraga to redirect some of the village funds which were currently going to be allocated for termite water on the hall to repair at least one, if not two, pumps at the Barraga Dam, because they provide the Barraga water supply and are also for fire requirements. Also in relation to that, at a meeting recently, I was requested to make some further inquiries in relation to access to the Back Barraga Cemetery, which the General Manager is kindly investigating for me, and issues in relation to Shoemakers Road, which I think has been looked at by our Technical Services Director, or Acting Technical Services Director. But yeah, that's all I have, Mr Mayor. I will try and provide those in an updated report for the next meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'd just like to thank Councillor McKibben for his delegates report. As I've mentioned previously in several meetings, it's always appreciated that delegates provide these reports because the broader community can see what is going on and what is being discussed in our villages, in our local LGA, which one question I did have there through you, Mr Mayor, to Councillor McKibben, if he has any feedback regarding the wild dog and pest committee meeting on the 29th of January. Was there any outcome through that?
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, Mark Simpson and Phoebe Reynolds from LLS attended on behalf of LLS. They're going to do a baking program in April of this year, as I understand it, both for wild dogs. And there is also money available from LLS for pig trapping and poison. And I do have the number for Phoebe Reynolds, to contact if someone needs it, for landholders to get in touch with LLS in relation to that pig trapping and poisoning work. So as I said, the LLS has money they can allocate to landholders for that at the moment. There was discussion about the effectiveness of the large wild pig exercise at Burriga at that meeting on the 29th, and there were some differing views as to how effective that had been, because there are still a lot of pigs, wild pigs around. So they're the major issues that came out of that. Thank you for the question.
Okay, thank you very much for the response.
Anyone else? Councillor McKechnie?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through you, a question on the pumps. I just wonder whether it may be, there may be an opportunity to seek some funding through the Royal Fire Service, given that they are pumps that are used for bushfire protection and protecting the village. Might be an avenue to see if there's some funding available there, and instead of taking money off the repairs to the hall. It's pretty topical at the moment, and there's money there to be handed out if we apply, we might get some.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'd like to thank Mr McKechnie for his suggestion. That's all I'm saying.
Anyone else? Councillor McCarthy?
Just with Councillor McKibben's report verbal on the access to Buckburry Cemetery, unless ownership has changed, the owner says no, all the time, because it's private ground to get to the cemetery.
That's to be sorted out.
That needs to be sorted out. I have commented on that in the comment I made to the General Manager, but we're investigating further.
All right. Anyone else? Put the motion, all in favour? Passed. Upper Macquarie County Council, item 11.2. The recommendation is council will receive and note the Upper Macquarie County Council Delegates Report. Councillor McKibben, Councillor McCarthy. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The report speaks for itself. I think the concerning part, or the part that we need to note as a council, is the section 1. And this, what I foreshadowed here, has actually occurred in that the amount of money that has been expended in doing roads has been basically exhausted at this stage, with not all of the roads being done, in fact a small proportion. And that's basically for several reasons. The first is that RMS is now requiring every spray contractor on the road to have signage or an additional vehicle with signage on it. So that means where we used to send one spray vehicle out to do the roads, we've now either got to have an auxiliary vehicle, which at the moment we're using to carry additional water for spraying so we don't have to go and fill up somewhere else, or we have about 7 signs and we're using the auxiliary vehicle. So that's requiring another vehicle and another person to spray all the roads. This is a new RMS requirement that's now been extended to our activities. The other issue, as we are all aware, and as stated in the report, is that the frequency and the intensity of weeds on our roads, because of the last two seasons, is horrendous, and none of us need to know that. The problem we've got at the moment is, and I do remember the figures, I think we've done about 65 kilometres and nearly expended all our roadside funds, and we're due to do about, and I think we've got about 230 to do. So, there will be a request from Upper Macquarie or the Central Tablelands Weeds Authority for additional funding to do, to at least partly, if not complete, the section 1, which was designated for this year. You'll recall the previous report which talked about, or the previous two reports which talked about the 3-year rotation. And I don't want to be alarmist, but that if we were to do all the roads that we are currently designated to do this year, I'll just go, on my quick calculation, it would be a large amount of money. So, and I think we're talking about the vicinity of 147,000 to complete.
That's $147,000 above the amount that you contracted.
Yep. So basically, that's because the factors of having to have an additional vehicle, the intensity and the frequency of road. We all know what our roads are like at the moment. So that will probably be a matter, I would suggest, for the next meeting, that we will have to decide on whether we provide or do not provide, or we provide some additional funding.
Well, thank you, Councillor. This is for information.
Yes.
This particular report, and that the information you've provided will be rich for debate.
That's right.
Councillor Hayden?
No,
Sorry, Councillor McCarthy.
The report speaks for itself. Thank you.
Councillor Hayden?
I do have a question. Through you, Mr Mayor, to Councillor McKibben. I am a bit of a broken record with this, of course, regarding forestry and the weed impacts that are occurring along our roadsides. I did notice, and I'm not sure whether Central West Weeds Authority, Macquarie County, what are you called now?
Central hasn't changed. No, it's been up at Macquarie County Council for years.
Trading as Central Tablelands.
Central Tablelands Weeds, yeah, sorry. Whether you noticed that forestry had been doing some weeds maintenance on the border of the roadside verges that are encroaching onto forestry, especially out along the Abercrombie Road. They've been cutting down the sections of pine weeds that have popped up, but instead of removing them completely, what they've been doing is throwing everything in piles under other trees, therefore creating a fire hazard. So these trees that they've gone along, I actually watched them for a whole day. They were cutting down the pines.
Can you get to the point? This is a very long question.
No.
Please, move it on.
What can the Weeds Authority do about them just leaving their weed waste in piles like that under other mature trees, causing fire hazards?
Councillor?
Mr Mayor, pine trees are not listed as a priority weed under the regional weeds. So we have no control over, under the regional weeds plan, we have no control over pine trees at all. The only, we have discussions with forestry re-priority weeds, basically tussock and blackberry. We have an agreement with forestry where we have a roadside and they have blackberries, for instance, going from the fence to the thing, that we will do it and charge them from doing from the fence to the pine trees, and obviously Central Tablelands Weeds Authority bears the cost through the councils from the roadside to the fence. We have no jurisdiction over what they do or don't do with pine trees, if that's what you're referring to.
They're the ones on the roadside verge.
That's right. It's not, they're not declared a priority weed.
But they're noxious weed.
Well, they're now a priority weed under the Biosecurity Act. Noxious weeds were under the previous act.
Thank you. Anyone else? Motion, all those in favour? Motion's passed. Committee reports. Community Services Committee, item 12.1. Recommendations that the council commit to hosting another end-of-year spectacular event on the 7th of December 2024 and provide appropriate budget and resources in the 24-25 operational plan. And number 2, that council receive and note the minutes of the Community Services Committee held on the 8th of February 2024. Councillor Graham and Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I would support the motion that the council hosts another end-of-year spectacular. The committee meeting last week recognised that it was a very well received event through the community, well attended. We also thought that it needed to be a bit before Christmas rather than right on top of Christmas, because there's lots of people away and doing other things. We also deliberated on whether it should be yearly or every second year, and thought it might be quite good having it every second year. The Community Services Committee has spent a lot of time developing that event, but feels that they could be doing a few other things as well. That's taken up all our time for 2 years, really. So the suggestion, if you look in the minutes, is to have a Community Services Expo, putting together a lot of community services that are available that people don't necessarily know about. So that's our next meeting is concentrating on that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you. Yeah, I was happy to second that. It was a great event, and I'd like to see it kept going yearly, but put your hand up for a few more volunteers.
Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I always appreciate reading the minutes and Katie's report. With the feedback that we've had from community over the past year, well, it will be after the second event, the community looks forward to having a Christmas celebration, and it's something that they really appreciate having every year. I'd like to actually see the event continue yearly, and including the carols and everything else as a Christmas event. Should there be a need for more volunteers, then I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that would be happy to put their hand up and assist.
Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Likewise, obviously support the report and support the event. I'm just wondering, are we able to put a dollar figure, because I cannot recall the appropriate budget and resources on that, so we can include it in the 24-25 operational plan? Do we know the figure?
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, through the chair, the budget commitment we'd be looking at is about 20k. We have looked to restrict some of our sponsorship to secure the future of that, but it's about a $20,000 commitment from council.
Is that 10k financial and 10k in kind, or is it all financial?
It's all through the chair. That's all financial.
So, is it appropriate, Mr. Mayor, if I could ask to put that in the recommendation so we know what we're talking about?
Well, let's leave that to the operational plan.
Okay, I'm happy with that, but I think, okay.
Because there was also sponsorship money. So that filled that out fairly substantially.
I'm happy with that.
Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the same thoughts as Councillor McKibben, and just have some concerns whether appropriate budget's the right wording. Whether we maybe make a minor adjustment there that says appropriate budget up to 20k. It's a minor thing, but I just have some concerns about the appropriate budget. It can mean $10 or 10,000.
As I said, there was.
I'm happy for it to go in the operational plan. I think that's the place for it.
And that's where I think they'll be done.
Yeah.
There was substantial sponsorship from one particular organisation, and that was wonderful. and they have committed to doing it again next year, providing sponsorship.
Yeah, I'm all for the event and for us providing some money for it. But the only question I had was whether that wording was, for want of a better word, legal, or the right way to go about it.
Matt, can you?
Yeah, through the chair, what we could do in the operational plan is just itemise out some of that particular budget that we have earmarked for this particular event, if that helps with council decision at that time, and of course we will actively pursue more sponsorship to try and reduce the burden on council, but we could itemise that in the operational plan when you deliberate on that.
Thank you.
So we could have resources run up own as itemised in the 24-25 operational plan in this motion.
So,
Which would cover it off.
so with the move and seconder.
Yeah, well, you happy with that, Katie? Right. All right, so we'll do the minor amendment, so appropriate budget and resources as itemised. Right, you happy with that, everyone? Anyone else want to speak to this? No? All right. I'm sorry, what Kathy said. I'll make out of that. I'll make it. All right. I'll put the motion as it is. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. And I'd just like to mention that former Mayor Kathy Sajewicz has resigned from the Community Services Committee. It will be a great loss, and we'll be providing a letter to Mrs. Sajewicz, noting her wonderful service and everything she's contributed to the community.
Yeah.
All right. Black Springs Community Hall meeting, item 12.2. The recommendation is that the council prioritise funding in the financial year 24-25 operational plan to complete repairs to the band room in the Black Springs Hall. Continue the revised meeting schedule for the Black Springs Hall community meetings for the first Thursday of every second month, commencing the 4th of April, and update the charter accordingly. And that council receive and note the minutes of the Black Springs Committee held on 8th of February 2024. Councillor Hayden, seconder. Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, speak to the recommendations here. We had a lengthy discussion regarding what really needed to be finalised for the hall to basically be repaired in a final package. There was some questions regarding who should be contributing to that amount. It has come down to the point that we had suggested that council prioritise that funding for the band room repairs through the 24-25 operational plan. We've decided upon continuing with our revised meeting schedule, which is every second month, the first Thursday of every second month, commencing the 4th of April until the end of this council's term, and receive and note the minutes. There was a couple of issues within the minutes. There was some disappointment about some unplanned work that had occurred in the hall. Some of the BSCA committee didn't seem to understand the seriousness of doing work in the hall without council permission or notification, as well as placing some plastic tarps against the western windows using tech screws, which has damaged the acoustic panels that cost council and the hall quite a substantial amount of money. The damage can be seen in the panels, and some of the committee got quite upset about that being pointed out to them. So they didn't seem to understand the seriousness or the risk to any insurance policies or anything. So that was a very disappointing thing that had occurred with the hall, and we really hope that it doesn't occur again. That's it.
Councillor McCarthy?
Councillor McKibben.
Sorry, Councillor McKibben.
No, I've no further comment other than I assume that the recommendation one is that an allocation be made in the 24-25 operational plan to complete repairs in the band room, which is outside any other funds allocated for the hall. Is that correct?
Through the chair, over and above, yes.
Over and above.
Over and above.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak? Councillor McKegney?
Yeah, I just noticed that in the report, the cost estimate for those repairs is 6,500 to 7,000. I guess that's an estimate, not an actual quote. So we don't know what the actual costs will be, but gives us an idea that we need to plan for somewhere in the vicinity of 6,000 to maybe 8,000 or something.
Anyone else? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Report for decision. Item 13.1. The 2024-25 IPART rate peg determination. The recommendation is that council adopt the IPART determine the rate peg of 5.2% for the 24-25 financial year. Move in second, please.
Can I put forward an alternative recommendation?
You can, yes.
Could I move that the recommendation that the council adopt that the council does not adopt the IPART determined rate peg of 5.2, but adopt a 4.5% for the 24-25 financial year.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Tucker? Councillor Hayden?
Yes, I was reading through the paperwork. I did note that costs are going to increase to 3.9%. Also, employee costs will be up. The extra CPI increase, I noticed when I went down to the further charts under the IPART review, the 4.5 also had the addition of the increase of population as a 0.7%, and the 0.7% also reflected the same increase within the metropolitan areas and city areas. I actually didn't agree with that, and I actually would like to see us be a little bit reserved instead of going with the 5.2 and see if we can actually get by with the 4.5%. That's all I have to say on that.
Councillor Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I certainly recognise how difficult it is with increasing costs for council to balance its budget, but I do think we need to recognise that that same comment applies to everyone else in the community as well, with high inflation and rents and mortgages and power prices. So I would like us to be seen to be at least trying to give a little bit of relief, noting that at last year's budget, the anticipated increase for this year was going to be 2.5, so this would still be another 2 percentage points on top of what we anticipated last year. I had been thinking of suggesting a 4.2% increase, but I'm happy to go along with Councillor Hayden's suggestion of 4.5, and at least show that, if nothing else, we understand the pressure that everyone is under.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Trembath?
I'd like to speak against it. I believe that we should go with the full recommendation. We've had CPI at 4.1, 12 months to September it was 5.4, and at the end of 22 it was 7.8%. So we're already behind. And sometimes as councils we have to make hard decisions and not leave it for other councils to make perhaps in the next term, or be coming back in a year or a couple of years' time, like other councils have, suggesting 60% plus increases to their rates. So I would say, if we don't agree to what's been put forward here, I would like to ask what services would have to be cut, because we're going to have to make that decision. Our ratepayers understand the services that we do provide, and I think we saw that the debt ratio was pretty good. We're under 10%, so we don't get many people not paying their rates. But if we don't do this, as you can see, wages are going up, all the costs are going up. So we have to make a decision to cut services. There's no other way to do this. And we're actually have had many years where we haven't got the increases that we need. And now we had a proper decision made and it covers all the councils. And I don't think that that's a very big increase to be supported as councillors. Otherwise, you're just kicking the can down the road for the next group of councillors to have to deal with. And that's our job, to do the right thing for our community, to ensure that we do provide the services they expect, and some of those services are getting more and more. They expect a lot more from us.
Councillor Gibbon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you, I'd like to ask, I suppose it's the Director of Corporate Services, what material effect if this council was to adopt a 4.5% increase, noting that in the planning we had looked at a 2.5% increase, but obviously costs have gone over and exceeded that. But what implications would a 4.5% increase have, and would we be able to live within it, and what would be the short, medium and long-term effects?
Through the chair, councillor, the 2.5% forecasting you're seeing in that's an IPART requirement that they stipulate to us to put in long-term planning. We would not have projected that out, but that's what they indicate we need to put in the long-term financials. In that paper, we've highlighted a difference based on the 5.2 to the 2.5, about 140k in discretionary budget this year. 0.7 of that, the 0.7 that you're discussing is based on the population factor, which the new methodology for my part has looked at a variety of things council specific, and this region has been identified as a growing population, and with that comes additional services and things that we need to spread across the budget. So that really is a material impact of what that 0.7 is that council would not be recognising the increasing population that council needs to service, and would have to make adjustments to that. But as I said, as you can see there, from a 2.5 to a 5.2 is about 140k, so you could work the 0.7 out there.
You finished, councillor? Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I actually fully agree with Councillor Trimbar's comments. It's not a decision that we would take lightly, and none of us really want to pay higher rates, but we also value the services that the council provides. And if you then have to go back to a user pays for those services, it's really no different. So you're probably better off spreading it in the rates, I think.
Councillor.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I also support Councillor Trimbar's comments. We've seen the difficulty that other councils have faced by not taking some hard decisions a little earlier, and while it would be nice to demonstrate to our community that we are sensitive to the difficulties they face, I think our obligation is to the service we continue to provide and to leave our council in in good health, so I'll support your comments.
I don't support the amendment. When you read this IPART determination, this is the first one that is forward-looking. All the previous IPART determinations have been backward-looking. And the determination of looking forward allows for inflation rates. It is explicitly stated that there is a catch-up there for the emergency service levy that we have been hammered with for the last couple of years, the increases. And I commend the IPART Commissioner for recognising the effect that's had on rural councils in particular. And the population allowance is a recognition of what it costs to increase as your population increase. Now, as you build a brand new house on a brand new piece of land, there are contributions, but the contributions never actually cover the whole costs of what infrastructure has to be provided. The look around the councils around us. Bathurst has had a disastrous defeat of a proposed special rates variation, which was in the vicinity of 50%. Lithgow has had a special rates variation of a very similar amount. Blaney is looking at a special rates variation, and we're not. And why are we not doing that? Because we don't need to. Because we've tried to keep up with incremental changes instead of kicking, as another councillor said, kicking the can down the street and then having to do a big one. The other difference is that last year the IPART rate peg was across the whole state. Consequently, it's pleased no one. This one, if you look at the papers, every single council has its own rate peg determined. And that covers things that need to be caught up, population, and a whole range of other factors. So it's a much better way of doing business. It caters for the needs of rural councils, caters for the needs of urban councils, and does so in a manner which is much more fair and looks at all the issues that are confronting councils in 2024 and on into 2025. So, as I said, I do not support this amendment. Anyone else wish to speak after me?
I agree with the 5.2. I think the neighbouring councils are all in trouble for not doing it. But the only thing is, if we're going to have these new developments, that they've got to kick the can for more social activities that have been demanded by these new people that reside there. Anyway, thank you.
Anyone? Councillor McKigney?
Yes, I don't support the amendment, Mr Mayor. I understand the costs that people are hurting, and no one wants to see rates go up, but we're somewhere in the mean area of the IPART recommendation, between 4.5% and 5.5%. And as the Director has said, the 0.7% increase on the minimum recommendation is basically to cover the growth of our council. And there's not an area in our council, from any of the villages surrounding us to any of the states in town, that's not growing and growing rapidly. So I think it's responsible to look forward, and we're lucky that we've just got over a 5x5 SRV. We don't want to go back there again. It was fairly painful. So we don't want to go looking for another variation in 2 years' time. So I think we've got to be responsible, we've got to look forward, and the 5.2 is some kind of a compensation in between the highest rate peg and the lowest one of 4.5. So I think I'd have to support the 5.2.
No, sorry, you don't get to take part in this.
Okay.
Anyone else? You've already spoken.
Yes, I have. I have a question, if it's all right.
That's all right. I'm gonna put the motion, put the amendment at this point.
Right of reply.
You can have right of reply.
The reason why I suggested the 4.5, looking through the figures, council could have still met all services with a 4.5%. Through the mayor, if I could ask corporate services to explain that scenario there. How could we meet all services with 4.5%?
Through the Chair, Councillor, that would be a discussion at operational budget time in the IPNR deliberations, and as per the paper, all the escalating costs that we're encountering, there would need to be some adjustments somewhere made at some point in the rolling out the new operational plan, based on everything that we're seeing.
Well, I still support the motion that I put forward, the amendment regarding, we've got TI coming up, we're going to have extra costs possibly to the community. I still support the 4.5.
Thank you, councillor. I'll put the motion. Sorry, I'll put the amendment.
Mr. Mayor, just procedurally, you didn't take up that recommendation to start with. There was a new motion put out.
An old motion.
4.5. Yep. So you don't have that standing motion. So if this is defeated, you don't have anything to go back to, which is why you would need the foreshadowed provision where councillors talked about 5.2.
Councillor?
I propose, I'll foreshadow an amendment, and the amendment will be the original motion.
Thank you. All right, I will put the motion. All those in favour?
That's.
Sorry, this is the motion.
That's the amended.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. This is the amendment. This is the alternate motion.
This is the
put up by councillor Hay.
4.5%.
The motion.
The alternate
This is the alternate
recommendation.
motion of 4.5%. All those in favour? Councillor Hayden, against?
And councillor Tucker.
Councillor Tucker, sorry. Against all other councillors. So the alternate motion has been lost, and we now have the foreshadowed motion, which is the original motion.
I'm proposing it as written originally in the business
So
paper.
you're moving it?
I'm moving it, yes.
Seconding, Councillor McKechnie.
Yeah.
Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we've discussed this at some length, and the reasons for the proposed original amendment. When reading these reports, I was still a little confused as to the true-up, or what they call the true-up variation. I read it several times. I think I understand it, but it's not the easiest concept. I think it's between what the ABS census said the population was going up and what I believe was actually happening later. So I think that was the variation factor. But I wasn't quite clear as to how it was calculated, but I assume that it's been calculated correctly and applied to all the councils. So on that basis, I'm more than happy to move the motion as it stands in the business papers, which is council adopt the IPART determined rate peg of 5.2% for the 24-25 financial year.
Thank you, Councillor McKechnie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing further to add on my comment on the previous motion.
Thank you. Anyone else? Put the motion. All those in favour? And against? Councillor Hayden, Councillor Tucker. And the motion is passed. All right, item 13.2, the Love MOU for the Yarning Circle, and the recommendations that council endorses the proposed. Can you let me finish reading it first? That council endorses the proposed memorandum of understanding for signing by the general manager.
I have an alternate recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Okay, what's your alternate motion?
The alternate recommendation is that council do not endorse the current proposed MOU, that we send it away to have some more work done on it. Currently, the MOU is not worded in a manner that is befitting between council and PJAR Lauk. There's a lot of demands in there, there's no timeframe set out, there's no costings set out.
Is that your alternate motion, all that?
That I'd like to send this back, that we don't,
So you come up with the alternate motion.
I just read it out to you, that we
No.
don't endorse this and we send it back to have some more work done on it, on the MOU.
All right.
Then I was speaking to you.
And then we'll need to find a second for this. Have you got that, Mrs. Swannell?
When you say that it be sent away for more work on
Yeah,
it, can you
could
please
they-
clarify who
Could
to?
the Aboriginal community group with council corporate services please do some more work on the MOU?
And that'd be, that further work, further consultation be undertaken with the Black?
Yes, it needs, yeah.
Revisions.
It needs to be standalone, sorry.
Yeah, it needs some more input into the MOU by the parties, and it needs to address both sides fairly.
So how do you want that worded in the motion, council?
Just that there be some more consideration and discussion in relation to the MOU, and that it be reworded and come back to council.
How about can I offer that the MOU needs further negotiation?
Yes.
So you're happy with that?
And
I'll second it.
Oh, hang on. Let's see what comes up on here.
Is that your motion, councillor?
Further negotiations be undertaken.
I'm just thinking about how this is going to work as it's written, and this is not disagreeing with it, but just thinking about how this is going to work. Could I also offer Councillor Hayden that the council undertake further negotiations regarding the MOU?
Yeah.
And leave out the do not endorse?
Yeah, that council undertake further negotiations.
Because I suspect that the negotiations will be fairly straightforward. There's a few, it's a very small document. So the council.
The council undertake further negotiations regarding the proposed memorandum of understanding
Oh, they could see it, full stop.
between PJAR Lauk and Oberon.
Don't need to say.
Don't need that.
I just need that, okay. Shall I talk to it now?
All right.
Need a seconder.
We need a seconder. We've got a seconder, Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
After reading through the MOU, it's very brief. It lists that the contract is effective immediate, etc., and that it is between the Oberon Council and PJAR Local Aboriginal Land Council. But it states within here that the materials used in the yarning circle will always remain the property of the PJAR Lauk. Council should not have to, saying it freely, it feels like council is being held to ransom from the demands within the MOU because they are not, they're either not worded the right way or the statements are only protecting the PJAR side and it is not giving any protections on the Oberon community side or the Oberon council side. I'm not against the yarning circle at all because I have proposed this previously. The knowledge that I have is that there was funding, grant funding, that was going to be put forward to the Aboriginal community group to fund the yarning circle. There was no talk of who owned it or who didn't own it. The perception was that someone was going to fund a project that was going to be in the Oberon Common, that was going to be there for Aboriginal community working party group members and the broader community of Oberon. But how the MOU is worded actually states that this yarning circle will always remain the property of the PJAR Lauk. If everyone knows, PJAR Lauk is actually in Goulburn. What would happen if one day PJAR Lauk decided just to come into Oberon Common and uplift the work that has been and take it away? Because Oberon Council would then have no say in regards to that. There's no statement within the document that Oberon Council actually has a say to say, no, you can't do that. So there are concerns throughout the document that I can see that don't fit well with me, and I'm sure they wouldn't fit well with the community in general. Any other grant funding we have, grant funding is given and then that item is actually done. It doesn't say it still belongs to them. When the very first conversation of the grant funding came up, it wasn't grant funding going from the NIAA to PJAR Lauk, it was grant funding coming to the Oberon Aboriginal community to have this yarning circle in the common. And that's one of my reasons, because there's no protections in here. There's a lot of demand that Oberon Council must have these insurances, must have another public liability insurance and this and that, and that we must maintain it. But they're given a directive that they're going to always own it. And this forever thing without any dates, yeah, I think it needs to be looked at and done a little bit better than it is.
Councillor Gibbard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I read this document, probably in a more technical sense. It says an MOU and then it says an agreement. I don't know whether it's an MOU or an agreement. An MOU is a memorandum of understanding, which normally is a memorandum of understanding. It usually doesn't constitute an agreement. So I got completely confused with this and with the signature blocks at the end, which signed, sealed and delivered, as though it was a deed. And it's not a deed. So I'm thinking, is it an MOU? Is it an agreement? Is it a deed? So that was my first problem with it. The second problem is, and I think Councillor Hayden has touched on this, Oberon Council's making available, I'll put it that word, an area on the common for this yarning circle to be erected. I think that needs to be encapsulated better in here. I think any installation of any what I'll call infrastructure on that area, for want of a better word, the installation and removal of that needs to be by agreement of the parties. And this is another area. I got confused on the parties. This is between the PJAR Local Aboriginal Lands Council, but then we also talk about the Oberon Aboriginal community, which I understand is a separate legal entity or a separate entity. And there's an obligation in relation to the materials, in relation to the Oberon Aboriginal community. So I was getting confused there as to who has control over this infrastructure, if I call it, that's being put there. Also the statement that if after a 15-year period, the agreement needs to be amended. Well, the agreement should be able to be amended at any time by the agreement of the parties. So I don't know what the hell Luck's talking about. And as Councillor Hayden said, I think that if material to be installed or removed, that it has to be basically a discussion between Oberon and them. So first of all, is it intended to be an agreement? Is it intended to be an MOU? Is it intended to be a deed? Legally, it's not clear what the thing is. On the insurance, I have got no idea whatsoever why we need professional indemnity insurance mentioned in this at all. I cannot see a professional indemnity liability arising out of this. If they want, if it's intended that the public liability that Oberon Council or Hattie has in relation to our assets, etc., like the common, which we do have, should obviously include the yarning circle, but I think that's what it should say. And I think if it is going to be an MOU, there should be a nice reference at the beginning, which forms part before you get into the substantive, saying what the intention of the parties. The intention is for Oberon to provide an area from which to be erected a yarning circle. PCAR has said, yes, we would like to erect a yarning circle and all that. So I think a lot of work needs to be done. If some assistance is required, I'm more than happy to offer my time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? This is a very short document, all right? I note all the things you've said, Councillor and Councillor Hayden. I think a bit of negotiation would work this out very quickly, and I noted this. I had similar reservations, so I'm perfectly happy to support the ultimate motion where the council undertake further negotiations regarding proposed memorandum of understanding. And we can come to I reckon it would take us probably 25 minutes to sort it out. So unless anyone else wants to say, or if you want to write a reply.
The only thing I would like to say, Mr. Mayor, is I think that we all support the intent of what's intended. I think it's very important to make that statement. Sorry to interject there.
I would ask that we add another sentence there, if you're happy, mover and seconder.
What's the sentence there?
The sentence is that the general manager be delegated to undertake the consultation.
Wouldn't the corporate services, isn't that nothing with more professional than that?
General manager sign these things.
Okay, all right.
And Councillor Gibbon, happy with that?
I'm happy with that, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's passed unanimously. Thank you. All right. All right, items 13.3, the Abercrombie Road project scope change. And the recommendation is that council proceed to upgrade the intersection of Abercrombie Road and Black Springs, being the southern entrance at a cost of $450,000, and include the Abercrombie Road at Shooters Hill Road intersection in the Regional Emergency Road Repair Fund of $2.49 million, deliberations at the March ordinary meeting. Do I have a mover and seconder? Someone needs to do this. Could Councillor Hayden?
Yeah, I can't speak yet. I have to wait till there's a seconder, don't I?
Who's moved it?
I did.
You've moved it, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll second it.
Yeah, I had a little bit of confusion with this Abercrombie Road scope change project, just regarding some listing of what was written in there about Shooters Hill Road, Abercrombie Road, extending over the Fish River Bridge. My apologies to our technical services manager. After some further discussions this afternoon, I am happy with this. However, the recommendation in here to proceed with the upgrade of the intersection, I was just trying to see if there was a way of dealing with the worst section of the road before dealing with the better section of the road. That was the issue that I had with this particular project, scope change, because there's not a great deal wrong with the Black Springs side, but however, the Shooters Hill Road intersection down at the Little River portion of the road needs the work done as a priority over the top end. That's all I have to say on that. Sorry for the confusion.
Councillor Trimbo.
I seconded it for discussion. I have no issue with the recommendation that's been made and support.
Thank you. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just have a question. I don't know if this may possibly lead to a suggested amendment, but we'll see. When we've previously discussed this forthcoming report on how we're going to allocate this 2.49 million, which we've been expecting for a few months, and I have requested previously that that report include the couple of projects that I have raised on a couple of occasions, one of them being the Sloggott's Road intersection with Abercrombie Road, and one of them being the section of Dog Rocks Road, which is suffering, to see if we can recover that before we have to spend too much extra money. So I would just, first of all, like to be reassured by the GM or the acting director as to whether this forthcoming report will include discussion and deliberation of those possible projects as well. And if it will, then I'm happy to support it as is.
Councillor, we're actually dealing with item 13.3, not the next month. Okay, so keep on the topic.
Yeah, well, I believe I am on the topic because if it's not the case that those projects will be included in the report, which is what this is about, then I will move an amendment to say that they should be included for deliberation.
Along with all those other projects?
Well, number one is recommending that we do a smaller project at the Black Springs intersection. I'm happy enough with that. Number two says we include the Shooters Hill Road intersection in the deliberations. And I'm asking for two other projects to also be included in the deliberations. And if they already will be, that's all I need to know.
Okay. All right, anyone else wish to speak?
Oh, well, could I get that question answered, Mr. Mayor?
Through the chair, this report seeks to understand council's position under the 23-24 operational plan. As we previously indicated, we will be bringing back a report to March that will outline a number of strategies on how the 2.49 million could be spent over the next 3 years. And that will include projects that council has either on its matrix or projects that the engineering department have indicated through their rolling works plan to be of critical need over the next 3 years, which will include where our asset plan sits and these other very important things which councils use in making those decisions. So it will include all those things. If individual specific projects want to be included, then that would be done at that time when those deliberations are undertaken.
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, yes, all I'm asking is that the previous undertaking given to me and to council that those 2 additional projects would be included for deliberation. I'm unclear from the General Manager's reply whether that is the case, so I would like to move an amendment to number 2. So it would be after the word intersection would be comma, and the Abercrombie Road at Sloggett's Road intersection. Comma, and the rectification of a section of pavement on Dog Rocks Road. And then the rest of it continues as is.
Do we have a seconder anywhere?
I can't second that.
Councillor McKibben? Councillor Tucker?
Yes, thank you. I probably don't need to say very much more. It is not making a decision at the moment, but as the GM said, this 2.49 million will need to be spread over several years. And so I'm hoping that somewhere in that forward program, we can include the opportunity to at least consider one or both of those projects. Thank you.
Councillor McKibben?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I second for discussion, but also I would like some advice, probably from the Acting Technical Services Director. In regard to the prioritisation and safety of these intersections we're referring to, and how he deems these, in his view, as priorities or not for the work. Driving that, I suppose, Abercrombie Road intersection at Black Springs from the south, I would have thought there are worse road intersections than that one, but that's a personal view, not a technical-based view.
Mr Mayor.
I'm asking advice through the
chair before David gets in. These 2 projects were endorsed by council in their 23-24 operational plan. They were looked at by our technical services department at that point and deemed to be programs in which we could support that through a number of funding mechanisms. David's done an assessment on the 2 projects that we've talked about in this regard and deemed that the one in Black Springs a higher priority than the one at Little River. However, in the report it does say that both are still important, just that at this point in time, if there is a change in the way the government, as we're aware, has delivered on its funding arrangements, we needed to make a decision now. And the reason why we needed to make it now is because we're running out of the year, and if we don't spend that money in that year, they probably take it off us. So that's the rationale behind that. The next one can come back as a secondary component in March, but because there are additional flexibilities in the new way the new funding can work, we have a little bit more time. So if council then want to defer that, then they have that opportunity to do so, and if it's move it, then so be it. But all those things can be deliberated in March.
So I think that's why part 1 of the recommendation was not moved, because we have to make that decision. Yes.
I just wish to speak to the amendment. In here where it says include Abercrombie Road at Shooters Hill Road intersection, could we just add a couple of extra words to that to say near Little River? Because there's been the confusion through here with Fish River on the Shooters Hill Road, and it's like it doesn't know there's not one. So just to get some clarification, because that's where this report had become very confusing when I was reading it, and I had to email David, our technical service.
Councillor Tucker and Councillor, you happy with that?
I'm happy.
Yes, I'm happy with that. I've noticed that error in the report as well, but so yeah, that does clarify it.
I couldn't understand what extending over
Yeah.
Fish River meant.
Just for that. I'm still confused as to how the Black Springs southern section gets priority over that, because the Little River Shootle Road section is the one that the whole community has been complaining about for over 12 months.
Hence why I asked the question.
All right. Acting Technical Services Director, it's your time to speak.
Through the chair, thank you for that. I agree, I've seen both of those, they're both really in need of importance. The reason we've chosen the Black Springs intersection is because it's a higher, it has slightly higher risk because it's a raised road. Also, as you come in around a bend, the pavement is falling away, so when you've got long trucks going around, there's going to be, it's a little bit more dangerous, but it's also dangerous at I would not disagree that it's also dangerous at the Shooters Hill, but I'm saying Black Springs to me is a bit more danger.
Okay.
I'm happy, Mr Mayor, so that satisfies my initial request. Technical Services opinion.
All right, anyone else want to speak to this amendment?
Yes, just from David, has a roundabout ever been considered in the one at Black Springs?
It's requested.
Concrete roundabout, similar to the two entrances to town?
So through the chair, I have not looked at the roundabout at Black Springs, considered that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, like we're getting up to 450,000 and there's a roundabout possibility. And the other one was.
Let's not
we need
discuss the scope of work beyond the actual amendments and motions.
Okay.
All right.
Just right of reply when everyone else has finished, Mr Mayor, if I may.
Yep, no one else?
Okay, thank you. And thank you to the acting director for those comments. And I don't think anyone is arguing or objecting to part one of the motion. Everyone accepts that that project is on the current year's works program and needs to go ahead. The only discussion is about number 2, which is for future years, and that's what the discussion will be about next month. And so it's just to include extra projects for consideration when we have that report next month. Thank you.
Okay. I will put the amendment. All those in favour? Amendment is passed and now becomes a motion. All those in favour? Motion is passed. All right, Oberon Quarry Community Consultative Committee, Council Delegate. The recommendation of the Council nominate one Council Delegate, one alternative Council Delegate, and a Planning and Development Director to represent Council on the Oberon Quarries Community Consultative Committee. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm more than happy to move this recommendation, and I suppose we need to ask for nominees for the respective positions from councillors. So,
can I get a second?
Sorry, yes?
Second?
Yes, I'm happy to second and exactly what Councillor McKibben has said.
Earlier in the day, I'd had one nomination put forward, and that was Councillor Tucker.
Do I nominate Mr Mayor?
As the alternate.
Any other nominations?
Any other nominations?
I was going to nominate as the alternate, but that's it.
All right. So we might have a little vote on who's the prime and who's the alternate. So we have Councillor Tucker, Councillor Hayden nominating for the position, and Councillor Trembath as the alternate. So can I just do it by a show of hands for Councillor Tucker for the delegate? 1, 2, 3, 4. Councillor Tucker?
I'll vote for him.
All right. So Councillor Tucker is the delegate, and the alternate?
Lauren can have it.
All right, Councillor Tremblay. All right, there you go.
So we're both feeling very lucky, Councillor Tremblay.
So
I think you're lucky.
the recommendation is passed, and the delegates are Councillor Ian Tucker and alternate Councillor Lauren Trembath, and the Deputy Director, and the Planning and Development Director. Okay. That was easier than I thought it was going to be. All right, social media policy 2130. The recommendation is that Council place the proposed model social media policy on exhibition for 28 days, seeking input from the community. And 2, the Council delegate to the General Manager any minor administrative amendments to the draft and the final document, should they be required. Endorse the social media policy should no submissions be received or report back to the next available council meeting, should non-administrative submissions, that's very difficult.
I'm more than happy to recommendation in 3 parts, Mr. Mayor. I have put a small amendment through to the General Manager, and he's agreed that that needs to be made. Oh, sorry.
And Councillor Hayden's the seconder.
Yeah.
Please.
And because there was some words that were a bit nonsensical there about part 2 not applying, but I'm more than happy that that will be made under part 2. So yes, I'm more than happy to move it.
Okay, Councillor Hayden.
I have read it.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation. I'm happy to, I've gone through that, and I think this is a good social media policy and an upgrade on what we currently have.
Anyone else? Councillor Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Recognising that this motion is simply to put it on exhibition, so I know there'll be opportunities to make comments on the draft policy itself, but just a couple of advanced comments. One was, I was surprised to see that it would be compulsory for councillors to receive that induction training. I would have thought it was more appropriate to say are encouraged to receive, because I wonder what the consequences would be if a councillor did put something on social media but without having done that training. So I think that just needs a little bit of work there. And the other area that I think is not very well covered is what happens at election time when things are being done on social media by a candidate who is not an existing councillor compared to a candidate who is an existing councillor, and that might get a bit tricky, distinguishing between what they're saying as a councillor or a candidate.
Thank you, Councillor, for saying your submission.
Yes, that's my point. I'll support the motion, but I think those are points that we'll need to be clear about.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak to this?
I was just going to say for clarification that if you are an elected person, then it applies to you, but if you're just a candidate, it would not apply to you until you became an elected member of council.
Yep.
May I add to that? Briefly. Really briefly, during election periods anyway, if your term is up and you're running again, you're then not a councillor.
Okay. All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Passed. The 6-month delivery program update, item 13.6, and the recommendation is that report item 13.6 is received as information. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to receive the report for information. I did go through this. There was 2, I can't see where they are at the minute, and it's not a huge concern, but it was just an outdated thing that mentioned 2018 instead of 2021, but it's not that significant. Can't see where it is at the minute.
Okay, anyone else? No one else?
Ian's
Oh,
got one.
Ian, sorry, you're not Ian. Councillor Tucker?
The seconder hasn't spoke.
I'm sorry there,
It's
Councillor.
all right, I'm fine, I'm more than happy to second it.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions. The first one is on page 119, right down the bottom line. I remember the last time we looked at the 6-month plan, and I noticed it on that occasion because it was right at the top of the page, and I went looking for it this time about. My understanding is that we do not maintain plant for the golf club, and I was told that would be corrected, that because that we don't maintain it, but it is still saying that we do. So I'm just querying that.
Through the chair, the actions in council's delivery program are set by the community each 4 to 6 years. 4 to 6 years. For the next 4 years, we don't change those actions that are in there, but we note them in the commentary. And we'll look at those when we do the comprehensive review later this year after the election.
Yes, I was talking about the commentary where it says maintenance of plant and water are budgeted and supported. So I wasn't referring to the actual action, but the commentary.
Sure, sorry. My maintenance would be how we assist with water and what that goes to for their maintenance, but noted, I'll change it for the next time, councillor.
Right, thank you. Next, I've got 2 more quick questions. The next one is on page 130, strategy 433, which is the pedestrian access mobility plan. And it talks about ongoing funding is sourced to continue to provide improved pedestrian access. So I had thought that if we were doing any work on that plan, that it was just council's own resources. Do we have external grant funding or something to help us with that plan?
Through the chair, absolutely. We use that document as our core document when we're chasing grant funding for these types of things.
Oh, so there's no ongoing, regular funding. It's only when we apply for it.
Through the chair, we use that as our core document when we go after that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And my final question was page 131, strategy 4.5.2, where it talks about the membranes at the water filtration plant, and it says significant planning has been undertaken to replace the membranes. This project will be completed in the near future. So I thought that had already happened.
Through the chair, you are right.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hayden.
Yeah, sorry, I found what I was talking about earlier. I'm just wondering whether there's a possibility that that community snapshot can be updated, because the median weekly household income, $1,239, up 25% since 2011. That's like a very long time
I have
ago.
already asked for it to be updated.
Oh, you have. And the council profile on top of that, where it states 14,678 expenditure 2017-18. You've requested that.
I've
one as well.
asked for the whole snapshot to be updated.
Yeah, that's the thing that concerned me the most in that. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Put the motion, all in favour? Motion is passed. Okay. Item 14.2, monthly activity report planning. Hang on. First. Sorry, the general managers. There we go. 14.1, monthly activity report, general manager, February 2024. The recommendation of item 14.1 is received as information. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Trembar, Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mayor. More than happy to move the report. I note that we had a number of, work health and safety issues, plus a number of audits, training, etc. And that we're moving to a separate WH, well, I suppose it's a risk register or a injury register for the pool and gym separate from our council one, so that we can distinguish that. I take it that'll be also, for information, reported as a separate item within the general manager's report?
Through chair, either that or through the planning and development director, who's the director over the top of that.
I am assuming that the incidents that have occurred at the pool are not involving, I'll be careful how I say it here, but there's no suggestion of any issue with our facilities.
Absolutely not.
Thank you. And I note the WHSR site safety inspection, all the paperwork was in order for the contractor on Archstone Road. I'm assuming everything else was in order?
Through the chair, that's the case, yes.
Okay, fine. The other, I note that there are 2 claims for driveway damage. Are we normally liable for driveway damage? I thought that was.
So
I would have thought not. I thought it was similar to falling branches.
Through the chair, it's because of the nature of the claim that they've been forwarded off to our insurer. But generally, it's not ours.
I thought it was similar to if people hit a pothole and go off the road. It was covered in a similar nature to that, in that there's no liability for council.
Just a different section of the Act, councillor, and able to run through.
I'm more than happy, that's my last question, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm more than happy to move this report.
Nothing further to add, thank you.
Councillor Hope.
Yes, just wanted to ask a couple of questions under the work health, safety and risk activities. Noting there where it stated Technical Services Department on a complaint from a resident. I think I know where this is because I did have to refer this to council 2022 and I think it was early 2023 as well, regarding that particular tree that has damaged a whole shed and now has damaged fencing as well. And from memory, Technical Services Director actually went out there and said some work was going to occur at some time ago, but don't hold me to it because I can't actually remember the specific conversation. But after conversations previously about roadside trees and hangover and how trees falling on a road can cause an accident or cause damage to someone's vehicle or someone's property, I'm just a little confused as to how this also isn't covered when some of these people are actually calling council and mentioning that these trees are about to cause an issue or will be causing an issue even though they are still on council roadside verges.
General Manager.
Not to unpack there, council, more than happy to take it offline if you want to look at it.
Take it on notice and we'll email about it.
The 4th point down gives the indication on how council isn't liable for those sorts of things.
You have another one?
No, that'll do.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Another couple of quick questions, both of them page 135 in relation to work health and safety. The second point talks about the wash bay at the depot and there's some work happening on pit covers and handrails. The final sentence says further work is being undertaken to divert the system to sewer rather than the current system of retention. I'm just interested to know what that further work is and where it's up to. Has any physical work commenced on that as yet?
So through the chair, we've looked to undertake that project when the Albion Street upgrade project's going to occur, as there is an underbore required across Albion Street to hook it into sewer. So we're going to do that work at the same time to hook the system, which is currently on the other side of Albion Street.
Yes, and that was my recollection, which is why I'm asking the question. So the further work which is being undertaken is simply planning and design for that later work, physical work.
Yes, but we're going to do the sewer connection as we do road work.
No, I understand that. Okay, thank you. My other question is the sixth point, and it is much the same question as Councillor McKibben asked about the tree roots. Would I be right in guessing that this is a situation where the trees are on council property and the damage to the driveway is on private property?
Through the chair, that is close to the matter, yes.
Right. Okay, thank you. I won't ask for further details in public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Put the motion, all those in favour? Motion's passed. 14.2, the monthly activity report for planning developments, February 24. Recommendation is that 14.2 is received as information. Councillor Hayden, Councillor Trembar. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation. It's really good to see that the Oberon off-leash dog park additions in there with the shade structure and rainwater tank are will be completed within the time frame. Reef primitive campground amenities, I think all the little hiccups that were there in the beginning with little pump issues and has been all rectified since someone has informed me last time that it was one of the best showers they've had. So considering someone goes camping and has showers in the primitive ones, they're very impressed. There was also a couple of other comments from some people that had came across fishing from the Wagga area when they said it's a really good amenity out there, so we should be very proud of that. So thank you to the planning director. Thank you.
Nothing further to add.
Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering whether the revenue has actually reached parity with pre-COVID, or pre-changeover. I know that we were forecasting in the next couple of months it would.
Revenue of what?
Of the pool, of the fitness centre. Page 141. Okay. Revenue is continuing to climb also towards pre-changeover levels and should reach parity in the coming months. How close are we?
Through the chair, last time we looked at this, it is, I can't give you that, it was, tracking quite well, so I can't give you a timeline with parity, but it is, provided offline. Yeah, we might provide that offline if that's okay.
That's right. Yeah, I thought you might know, it doesn't matter if you don't. I note, just interested, there's quite a lot of, on page 145, 146, quite a lot of development applications which have stopped the clock, and some of them have been there since March 23. How do we move those along with the applicants? Are we proactive in approaching them to try and get the information from them? Through you, Mr.
Yeah, through the chair, Councillor McKibben, that's correct. Otherwise, if they don't provide information within 2 months of our requests, which we've been following up regularly, then we can put a recommendation to council, make a recommendation to determine the application and most likely refusal if we don't have the information. So we can progress with that.
Are there any of them that are sort of what council's requesting and what the applicant's providing don't sort of, is there any that are misunderstandings rather than?
Through the chair, more just.
I'm just noting there's 19
information. Yeah.
I know there's 19 of them, quite a lot of them. I'm just, obviously we want to promote sensible development within Oberon, as we all agree. And I'm just wondering if there's anything more we can, there's going to be a certain number that are just difficult, if I can put it that way, but is there any way we can facilitate getting these through?
Through the chair, as mentioned previously, as we're growing with our staff, as more staff come on board to assist, I'll be able to progress those matters probably more in a timely manner. Have been prioritising getting applications out the door that are able to be done so, more so than the older ones, but I take it on board, and we'll take that on notice to review the older ones to try and progress them further.
If you could, yeah, because thank you.
Okay.
I would like to keep these conversations at a slightly higher level.
Sorry.
Just one quick.
This is, all right, you're going to write a report?
I just wanted to say to our planning director, he's doing an awesome job. There's one March 23 and the rest are within a 6-month time frame, so good on you.
All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Yep, we do the card again. All right, technical services, February 24. Recommendations is item 14.3 is received with information. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Trimbar. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'd just like to say thank you to David for our technical services manager filling in the role of technical services director and for providing us with these reports. I did actually have a few questions around the Tablelands Way project after travelling back on Sunday. I did notice that there's 20 sections of that road that require guardrails, and that was at a minimum due to the height, the curvature. It was quite significant, and because of our wintry weather here, the darkness and the fog on that road in bad weather, I think that we are going to have to look at some more guardrail down the track, so if we can keep that in the back of our head. And there are 20 sections that were counted that were higher than a metre. That's all I have to say on that.
Councillor Trimbar.
No, I have nothing further to add, thank you. Great photos though.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. One question on page 155. The last line mentions asphalting of Dart Street driving lane. And it's probably me who has missed it along the way, but just wondering whether that is one of our capital works on our current list, and if so, what the funding source is and what the budget is, or is it being done out of maintenance?
Technical services director.
Yeah, through the chair, that's the Dart Street project is through grant funding. It wasn't originally on the capital works program, but it's funding that we've received for it through the LRCI funding. So the amount is $135,000.
Good.
The asphalt centre driving lanes.
All right, I must have just missed that. That's fine, and thank you, Acting Director. That's all, Mr Mayor.
Okay, anyone else wish to comment? The motion, all in favour? Thank you. The motion is passed. All right, monthly report corporate services. Recommendations of item 14.4 is received with information. Councillor Hayden, Councillor Trimbar. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, thank you to Corporate Services Director, thank you for this report. That's quite thorough. I do notice the document migration again. How long is that going to take to finalise, completely finalise?
Through the chair, the complexity of that project is there's two parts. The moving of the documents is not a long period of time project. What the team are currently working on now is how we actually structure the infrastructure around how documents move through the organisation. That requires quite a lot of engagement, workshops with the staff, and a component of change management as well. So change management is starting now to help staff adjust to the change. That project is well underway.
Thank you for that. And I did want to say, once again, the end of year spectacular. I think there was probably a few more than 800 attending. That's an absolutely fantastic event, and I really do hope that we can see that continuing every year. But Oberon Library and Community Centre, there's been a lot of good feedback coming out of there. A lot of the community, some of the kids are saying that when they finish school now, they like to go up to the library, and more reading being done, all that kind of stuff, and also a safe space. Because some of the kids, their parents might be working until 5:30 or something like that, and it's becoming a really good safe space for the younger ones in the community. So, thank you.
Nothing further to add.
Anyone else wish to comment? Thank you. All those in favour? Motion is passed. Investments, recommendations, item 14.5 is received as information. Councillor McKibben, Councillor McCarthy, Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Board speaks for itself. I'm more than happy, and I'm noting we're getting 5.1% interest on investments, and in fact, some we're getting 5.65. So it's pleasing to see. Thank you.
Straightforward report, thank you.
I did have a little devil's advocate question, if I may. Considering the National Australia Bank is closing within our township, was there any thought of moving those $5 million worth of funds away from National Australia Bank and placing them elsewhere?
Through the chair, we remove that from our considerations. We chase interest. That's what we look at.
That's all.
Okay. Anyone else? Motion, all those in favour? Motion is passed. All right, grants update, February 24. Recommendations, item 14.6 is received as information. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I was reading through this. It's really good to see the couple of grants that have come through. Would like to congratulate Tony Dwyer as well as Matthew on that, chasing up these grants. Some of the disappointment again that we haven't been successful for some, but it is what it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Firstly, on page 168, the top one, which is obviously of interest to us all, the sewage treatment plant. I think we might nearly have a date when a determination is meant to be made by that. Is that correct, gentlemen?
Through the chair, April 15 is the guidelines for the applications to be provided, yes.
Fine. And if I could, I note, if I can call it 1A on page 186, we're looking if that can actually extend to our end of year spectacular. Is that correct? And that would cover our 20,000. And can we apply for other events that we may be able to rebrand into this?
Through the chair, that grant opportunity, I'll look at end of year spectacular, and also actually seeing how we might be able to bundle a series of our community events under that to help lead some budgetary commitments that we have to carry in all the other different events. So we are just looking at how best to target that application towards that particular one. So
any of the events we provide for our tourists covered by that or not?
From what we understand, the evaluation is very much about bringing communities together. So it's the justification would need to be quite strong as to how a tourism event can play into that. But we are looking at events that do have a spillover, that community event that can bring visitors to the area as well. So, but that's how we are looking at if we can bundle our whole event program under that particular grant.
And if I could go to 1C, please, Mr Mayor. Would this cover, for instance, which is the Department of Climate Change, Energy, Environment and Water, would this type of grant, noting that maximum is 2.5, would we be able to look at solar and batteries for projects such as STP, Community Centre, Sports Centre, under that? And do we need at some stage to prioritise those as to which we put in and get a costing on that? We're doing that, I take it. When does this one have to be in?
Through the chair, these need to be in by the end of April, and there is an actual JO regional application that's being looked at under this grant. We're just evaluating it. Are we best to proceed with that, or actually go alone based on some other priorities we have? But we're looking at a lot of stuff around pool facilities, and there may be other priorities for us, so we're just evaluating now which way we might go with that one.
So in the interim, we're getting quotes for what it would cost to do those three facilities?
So
Solar batteries or something?
So through the chair, we already have endorsed our solar plan,
Yes.
and that had a number of costings in it, and we'll use that document should we go out on our own, rather than be part of the JO proposal.
So I take it our most expensive facility is probably going to be our STP to run or not?
Through the chair, we just have to have a look and see whether we can, in fact, apply for buildings that aren't built yet.
Yes.
But equally, like the admin centre, the depot, the roof space that we have on the tennis centre, the pool and the gym, absolutely would qualify for those types of things, I would suspect.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. And on D, which is at the top of page 167, this close off of streets for placemaking activities again, is that something that the end of year spectacular would fall under?
Yeah, through the chair, absolutely, that's the first thing, best dress, so we've actually put that one in, put that together and submitted, so we're looking to put all that traffic management costs and things under that one as well.
Right. Thank you, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. More than happy to second this.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I'll put the motion on. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, mine are both just a quick follow on from points that Councillor McKibben has asked. I was puzzled by what on earth a placemaking activity was, so I think that's sort of answered my query. But also on the sewage treatment plant, I was very pleased to see that with luck we should have an answer on that grant prior to our needing to make a decision on the tenders. My only query is that my recollection was that the grant that we applied for was 3.1 million and it's showing just 3 million even. Can I just clarify that?
Through the chair, that application has been 3 million. Yeah, not sure on the 3.1.
Because we had two running concurrently, one federal, one state, and they were both 3.1 is my recollection.
I can clarify that, but our understanding is that both applications are 3 million.
Yeah, all right, it might be my memory as well. Thank you, that was all.
Okay, anyone else? Put the motion, all in favour? Passed unanimously. Status of council resolutions. Recommendations report 14A is received as information. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Trimbar. Councillor Hayden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of little things throughout that report. You've probably already picked it up, but just the 14th of the 2nd, 2023 date typos up until I think it worked into page 6 or page 7 of the status reports.
Over on curbside collection.
Yeah, through the chair, I noticed that we went backwards rather than going into 2024. We'll make that slight adjustment.
Slight adjustment to those. There's one in here that I actually wanted to discuss. Regarding the Fogabogga Road.
Page number, Councillor.
Oh, that's the first page, sorry.
Yeah. Yes, got it.
The first page.
171.
Yeah.
That, regarding the Fogabogga Road realignment, is that on track, or should we seek to rescind that resolution?
Through the chair, no, the final, it's already been put in place. The finalisation of it is purely to do the land transfer from land to road. And that's currently just that we've got some resourcing issues that we're trying to promote value add within the organisation, but
Just
that's just.
wondered where it might be
No, but it's
a way to
progressing.
save some money and it doesn't really need the corner cut off anyway?
It's already
So
been
it's
done.
already gone
Yep.
ahead, right. Okay. That was one of the issues, and then towards the end of the document, regarding the telco, Black Springs, can I get any update on that? Because the Black Springs Community Association has no current update, no one's spoken to them out there. The only update that we're seeing is the update in the business papers, the update from the newspaper where Andrew G thanked Councillor McCarthy for chasing up a private landholder, and the BSCA secretary felt quite offended, as did a few others out there that have been working very hard and tirelessly for the last 5 years. So can we get an update on that?
Through the chair, the only update that I can provide is similar to the one that the mayor provided earlier this evening, whereby we've been contacted by the telco and they're working with a private landowner to source us a location for the small cell tower, which is why we've paused the acquisition process at this point in time.
So is there any way that council could ask this telco to also communicate with the persons that also first started the project?
I think
It's just very hard when they've been in thorough communications for a long period of time, and then all of a sudden someone else has jumped in and the ship's taken sail on a different direction, and no one over here knows what's going on that lives in the area, that has the discussions within their meeting and their association, so they're left in the lurch.
Through the chair, my only comment to that is it's a private negotiation between a landowner and the telco at this point in time, so we don't get involved in it. The only time we get involved is.
There's a grant involved in that though, there is a grant involved in this. So there's a grant involved via Andrew G and the BSCA for this to go ahead in the village. So this is where there's a lot of confusion. Just wanted to bring that up.
Yep. Thank you, councillor. Anything else? You're done.
Second, nothing to add.
Okay.
Mr Mayor, I put my comment through to the general manager via email, and I think indicated that it'll be taken up. A couple of them were the same as councillor Hayden's raised already, and I just queried a couple of matters about being closed without there was an intermediate step, so the general manager I think's accepted that. Yeah, so I'm happy.
Thank you, councillor. Anyone else? Councillor Carthy.
Just with the, I don't know what you call it, the action of the Telstra Tower in Black Springs, but it might have stalled as well from whatever problems are out there. So, look, I wasn't involved in any other negation. I was told one site wasn't suitable. I suggested this site, it's freehold ground, power available. I don't see it as being my stepping into it. I see the benefit to the community. The same as I said to Andrew G. I said the site mightn't be suitable.
Yep.
I passed on all the documentation.
Thank you for reinvigorating it, Clive.
Oh, look, you just get sick and tired of getting hit in the back with an axe every time you try and move forward.
Okay, anyone else? The motion, all those in favour? Passed. We've got Zoe. So we've got 14.8, the quarterly budget review statement. Number 2, October, December 23. Recommendations report is received as information. Member and seconder. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think it's pleasing to see that the revised budget forecast is now 199,334 in surplus, I think, or profit, I better use the word profit, not surplus. And that this can be used to reduce our community hub water fund internal loan, reduce our debt, so that's good. Noting that most of the adjustments are basically accounting adjustments, but they do impact on our bottom line, so I'm happy about that. So that's very pleasing to see. I note the ratios as quoted, and obviously we've still got the issue with the operating performance ratio, but that's because we're receiving too many grants, and that's a good problem to have, isn't it? So I'm more than happy with that what's been put forward as a QBRS report for the quarter ending 31st December. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions in relation to the TI fund update on page 199, and their questions probably more so for the GM or the acting director, more so than for Zoe. The first one is just looking through that list of projects, and it mentions Rugby League Club, and there's some money sitting there for lighting towers and some more money sitting there for change rooms. So I would take it that there's no way we're going to be spending money on the existing Rugby League Club now that we're going ahead with the new one, and just wondering if that means that that money can be reallocated into something else.
Through the chair, entirely up to council to resolve accordingly.
All right, so how do we go about that?
If a councillor wants to put a notice motion up or a report back that we says that similar to what you have, without me trying to preempt.
I'll consider a notice of motion for the next meeting rather than trying to come up with a motion now. And it's only an information report anyway. The other two questions are quite similar. For footpaths, there's unallocated money of 47,000, and I'm interested to know whether there are any specific projects earmarked to be done with that money, or is it sitting there waiting for either council or staff to decide what to spend it on? And the reason I ask is I'm hoping that some of it could perhaps be used to upgrade our disabled ramps, as we have discussed at TELC.
Councillor, through the chair, that allocation was put there through the 23-24 deliberations. I don't believe there's anything. We will get more information, and we will provide that at a later point for you as to any plans for that footpath money.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't recall that there were any specific projects in mind, so yeah, I'm hoping that a portion of it can be used for what I said. And the other question is very similar. Drainage unallocated 198,000. Same question. Are there any specific projects earmarked to be done with that money? And if not, I'm hoping that some of it can be used to continue what we've started with improving our stormwater pits, to put in lintels and stop them blocking up. So yeah, just is that money already earmarked for anything?
Through the chair, similar to before, Councillor Tucker, we've got it there as an allocation in readiness for those types of projects.
Yep, that's what I thought. Thank you for that, Director, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else? Councillor McKibben.
Just can I ask, through you, Mr. Mayor, or you may know yourself, what's the scheduled date for practical completion of the new sports club and ground?
Middle of next year.
May 25.
Could a follow-up question? In light of that completion date, and it's following on from Councillor Tucker's question, is it envisaged that it would be not wise for the two amounts allocated for change rooms and lighting towers to not commence, bearing in mind that completion date, and that they should be reallocated.
Once again, through the chair, that's a decision for council to make. The allocations have been made by council in that space. We know where things are going. It would be entirely up to council to make that decision, whether it be pre or post.
Could I, it's not an amendment to the existing recommendation, it's an addition to the existing recommendation, point 2. The council at the, what are we now, March meeting, review the 2 allocations for the rugby league's ground currently in the town improvement levy on the basis that that money may be better allocated to the new sports complex.
Forget the last half, just get the reviewing with those allocations.
Yeah, review those 2 allocations at the March,
Got
and with a report.
Yeah, sorry. So that's an amendment?
It is an amendment, yes. I'll make that a seconder.
Okay, Councillor McCarthy. All right, have you got it up there?
No, I don't, I'm sorry. I didn't get it at all, council.
Sorry, the council.
I wasn't expecting it.
Council is, yeah.
From just to give Shaz some, we have reports for decision, we have reports for information in our own system. So when you add a decision in a report for information, it takes Shaz a little bit of time to go through it, which is hence. The council consider reallocation.
So the first one stands.
Yeah. So the reallocation of TI. Currently
Rugby League Club lighting tower, is it?
Currently catering for the Rugby League lighting tower, the Rugby League change rooms. To the March ordinary meeting.
So consider reallocation.
At the
Reallocation of the funds.
So the council can realise.
Unallocated. They are allocated.
To the next ordinary council meeting. At the next
I think it's, yeah, apart from light, I think it's lighting towers, plural, but that's only semantics. I'm happy with that.
Happy with that?
It's rugby, TOWE on my report, council.
I know, but I was going to say that, but I thought, no.
Currently allocated.
Tours. It's a Rugby League tours.
Toes.
So this fund's currently allocated. All right, you happy with that? And if we get a seconder for that, Councillor McCarthy. All right, anyone else want to speak to this? Right, I'll put the motion.
So how,
Sorry, I'll put the amendment.
did you propose the original motion, council?
Councillor Hayden proposed the original one. Councillor McKibben.
Did I second it, really?
Yep, you seconded it.
So you can't do this.
I can't do it.
Feels like last week. Oh, I'll leave it then.
I think councillor Tucker's got his hand up too.
Councillor McKenny is moving the amendment. Vote a second for the amendment.
Councillor Tucker.
Councillor Tucker, I can't see him where he is.
Councillor McCarthy has already seconded it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, anyone wish to speak to this?
Self-explanatory, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. So the amended motion is now that report item 14.8 receipt of information, with part 2 being what we just voted on. Anyone else want to speak to that motion, new motion? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Passed unanimously. Okay. Solve your problem there, Councillor Tucker.
Yes, thank you, Councillor McKibben.
All right, close out report on the Visitor Information Centre refurbishment. Recommendation that report is item 14.9 is received as information. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am more than happy to propose this. I did ask a couple of questions of the General Manager, so maybe the General Manager could just comment on the questions I asked. Just for clarity, as I said in my email, I'm not doubting the quality, schedule or on budget performance of the project. I just had a couple of questions around occupational certificates, practical completion and what seemed an extended warranty period, which I think is good, and when it is anticipated the final occupation certificate will be issued, and if we worked under an interim one.
And through the chair, I'd be happy to answer those questions in 14.10.
Yes, we're on 14.9.
Oh, sorry. I turned the page. I apologise. I'm more than happy to move this, close out the 1409 on the visitor information.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, I'm happy to second, and it's an absolutely eye-catching visitor information centre, and there's been a hell of a lot of positive comments coming from tourists and local. It is really, really good.
Yes.
Through the chair, not to mention staff who appreciate it as well.
Anyone else? Put the motion. All in favour? Passed unanimously. Now, 14.10, close out report for Oberon Library and Community Centre. Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Mr. Mayor, I apologise for my non-observance of the correct item number previously.
You spoiled the drama.
So, I'm more than happy to move this report. As I said, I had some issues, just asked questions on clarity and understanding, no doubting the quality, schedule and budget performance of the project. It just was a bit confused at a couple of things in the report. One being is we obviously had the opening in July, and I was assuming practical completion was obtained then, and we got at least an interim occupational certificate. But I noted the warranty expires on the 4th of December, so that's 17 months, so did we get an extended period? When are we likely to get the final OC, noting it was held up because of some parking issues, and yeah, just how all that worked.
So through the chair, we operate under an interim occupation certificate. We're in it because we're allowed to be.
Yes.
Yes, we got the extension to December, as you've indicated, which is the 17 months, and we're anticipating the final around May of 2024, and it relates purely to a minor parking amendment that we need to make to the DA, where we provided additional disabled car parks, and that's less than the number of car parks. So it's a minor modification that we need to finalise, and it's expected by May.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to second this. I've sent through a couple of little comments regarding the Hooper Centre and the library and community centre. I don't know whether they're something that needs to be
That's right, I agree with your,
Oh,
submission.
right.
Yeah.
Right,
But that's-
okay,
that's-
no,
that's
that's fine, so there's no insurance through the project that can cover any of that as well?
Yeah, so through the chair, I responded,
Yeah,
we pass it on, we're doing that assessment
Yeah.
as we speak, but a number of those things that you raised have also been raised by other councils, and we're looking at those options now.
Thank you.
Councillor McKibben?
Sorry, right.
Did you miss something out in the minute?
No, it's something out of the blue, but I think it's relevant to note, on the record, that a number of people in the community who were against this centre originally have now fully embraced it and said that they were wrong and that they think council made absolutely the right decision in relation to this community centre. So I think that should be noted.
Yes.
Well done, and may hang out in there.
All right. Anyone else? I'll put the motion on in favour. It's passed. And 1411, Town Improvement Levy Consultation Update. Recommendations of this report is received as information. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This speaks for itself. We note the update, and we note that we will have considerations of this, I believe, in March as to where we go with it, and so that's going to be the crucial time. But thank you for the update.
Councillor Hayden.
Yeah, thanks for the update. There was a TI levy review presentation done at O'Connell, as well as at Black Springs, and as well as at the latest Ogden meeting. I'm just wondering whether there may in fact be like a town hall community meeting just to discuss this before we have to make any decisions prior to the next meeting before this finalises and closes off. Is there any chance of having a quick meeting at the library or the club just to highlight some things to the community, instead of, a lot of people aren't familiar or don't feel comfortable going to the O'Connell or the Black Springs or the Ogden because they don't realise they're open to the public. So is there a way that we can have a public meeting to present this to some of the community?
Through the chair, there's not a current plan to do that. We have just recently launched the survey, which is hoped to help people provide feedback without having to do the formal submission route. We can definitely boost collateral and things at library and council facilities to help, and we have just recorded a version of that presentation which we will put online. But there's not a plan for another public meeting at this point in time.
So would it be very costly if we could organise one? I think it's important for the community to be able to have that option to speak one-on-one with people about something as significant as this.
I guess a decision for council, although just noting that the submission period is closing end of next, on the 28th, so it'd be quite a short turnaround for such a meeting, but yeah, it's a current plan at this point.
Council has a current comms plan that it rolled out as part of this process. Public meeting wasn't part of that, so that would be more common in that regard. But if people have any comments and queries, we're more than happy to hear them or bring them in to have individual meetings should they want. So that option still remains available.
The presentation that Zoe has done all around, or she did one of those final and now has it recorded, and I think it'd be a great asset if we just push that out through the social media channels that we say people want to engage with.
Yeah, no,
it explains it very well.
I do agree, but for some of the older community, they're not on social media, they're not on the internet, they aren't on anything. So that was just...
I know, but we discussed all this back at a prior meeting where I fought very hard for a lot of things, and this is what we've decided how we were going to do this. So, yeah.
That's all, it's just a question.
I think what Councillor Hayden is saying has got merit. If you don't have a letterbox, you don't get any notification. So if you've got a town box over here, and that was highlighted by my neighbours, they knew nothing about this. And then when I pulled the brochure out and we had a look at it, one of them being a surveyor on their forestry, he said, I can't understand this town map at all. And when you go to Boy Scouts, you learn to read that North's at the top, our map's upside down. And I've highlighted this to Matt, it's wrong. So the people just don't understand the area that's affected, and I think it's merit what Councillor Hayden said, that we should have a public meeting either at the library or down the club to outline what we're doing. If we've had one.
I'm not going to do it at the club. I never go to public meetings.
No, that's fine. Okay. Well, that's what our new library is. It takes 300 people.
Yeah, well, it certainly does. All right, I'm going to put this motion. All those in favour? The motion is passed. All right, there's no urgent business, and we will now move into confidential. In accordance with Local Government Act 1993 and the Local Government General Regulation of 2005, in the opinion of the General Manager, the following businesses of a kind is referred to in section 10A2 of the Act and should be dealt with in a part of the meeting closed to the media and the public. Thank you, Heidi, for coming. Thank you. You didn't have to sit through it all, by the way.
The new bridge. What they surveyed the chair.
All right, can I have a move and a second to move to confidential? Councillor McKechnie, Councillor McKibben, all in favour?
On upside,
all right.
Not the downside.
I reckon, I'm going to make probably a silly prediction, but we should be able to knock this over fairly quick. All right, now back in open council at 8:41 p.m. During the time that we weren't recording, there was a late application for section 356 funding was determined, and the recommendation was that council endorsed the two requests independently and made subsequent resolutions to confirm monetary and in-kind support. Place the funding allocations on public exhibition for 28 days. It's now 8:41 p.m. and I'll close the meeting. Next meeting of Oberon Council will be held on Tuesday the 19th of March 2024, commencing at 5:30 in the Oberon Council chambers. Thank you, councillors. Thank you for people who have been listening via Zoom. Thank you. Sorry about that.